All right, let's get right into it. We're going to be breaking down the architectural blueprints of Active Directory. Getting this part right is probably one of the most critical decisions you can make when you're setting up a network. It's the foundation for literally everything else: your security, your administration, and how well you can scale down the road.
And honestly, that is not an exaggeration. Just think about it for a second. If the foundation of a skyscraper is flawed, does it really matter how amazing the penthouse looks? Of course not. The whole structure is compromised. Well, it's the exact same idea with Active Directory. One bad design choice at the very beginning can lead to some serious security vulnerabilities and just administrative nightmares later on.
So, what are these core pillars we're talking about? We're going to look at the three main structural components that you have to design. We'll start at the very top, the biggest picture, and then we'll work our way down into the nitty-gritty of day-to-day management. First up, the forest. This is the big one. It is your biggest decision, the absolute boundary of your entire AD environment. It defines the scope of everything, and I mean everything that happens inside your directory. So a forest is the ultimate container. Every single domain, user, and computer you create is going to live inside this one structure. And here's the crucial part. It's a security boundary. By default, an administrator in one forest has absolutely zero authority in another one. It also means that all the domains inside of it share a common schema. The best way to think of the schema is like the DNA of the directory. It defines what kinds of objects you can create, like users or computers, and what attributes they can have, like a name or an email address. So this brings us to our first major architectural choice. Do you need one forest or do you need several? Well, the overwhelming recommendation from Microsoft, and really the standard for most organizations, is to use a single forest. It's just simpler, it's cheaper, and it's way easier to manage. Having multiple forests is really reserved for very specific and pretty complex scenarios.
And this slide does a great job of laying out those very specific cases. You'd really only think about multiple forests if you're dealing with, say, completely separate organizations that have zero trust between their IT teams. Or maybe you have strict regulatory rules that demand total data isolation. Or you might have security policies that are just fundamentally incompatible. It's also something you might see as a temporary setup during a company merger, right before everything gets consolidated into one environment.
And hey, while we're on the topic of setting up your forest, here's a quick but super important tip. For any new deployment, you really need to set your forest and domain functional levels to Windows Server 2016 or higher. Now, this isn't just about a version number. This unlocks critical modern security features, like much better authentication and access controls. It's such a simple choice to make during setup, but trying to change it later on, oh man, it can be incredibly difficult. So it's one of those decisions you really want to get right from day one. Okay, so we've established our forest boundary. Now let's move one layer down in the hierarchy to domains. This is how we can start to partition our environment, maybe for organizational or even geographical reasons. Historically, it was pretty common to see these complex domain trees, kind of like this one, with a root domain and then a whole bunch of child domains for different regions or departments. And while domains do create partitions for things like security policies, the modern approach, well, it's shifted dramatically towards simplicity.
And here's exactly why. For the vast majority of organizations today, a single domain within that single forest is the way to go. It just makes administration so much easier, it cuts down on the complexity and traffic from replication, it improves performance, and it makes applying group policies way more straightforward. So what's the takeaway? Unless you have a very compelling reason not to, just stick to one.
Okay, so if we're not using multiple domains to delegate control anymore, what do we use instead? Well, that brings us to the most flexible tool in our architectural toolkit: organizational units, or as you'll always hear them, OUs. This question right here gets to the heart of the problem that OUs are designed to solve. Think about it. You have regional IT teams, you have a help desk, you have departmental admins. They all need some level of control to do their jobs, but there is absolutely no way you can make them all domain admins. That would just be a massive, massive security risk. So an OU is really just a container, like a folder inside your domain. And it has two primary jobs. First, to organize objects, like your users and computers, so you can apply specific group policies to them. And second, and this is the crucial part, so you can delegate administrative control over those specific objects to specific groups of people. And this is where the real design work kicks in. There's no single right answer here, but there are a few common models, and each one has its own pros and cons.
How you decide to structure your OUs is going to directly impact how you can manage your environment. The two most common models you'll see are structuring by physical location, like your Boston office and your Dallas office, or structuring by company department, like sales and IT. The location-based model is fantastic for companies that have regional offices managed by local IT teams. A department-based model, on the other hand, can work for more centralized organizations where, say, departmental IT folks need control over their own people. For most organizations, though, the recommended starting point is a location-based model, just like the one in this diagram. You create a top-level OU for each major site, and then inside those, you create sub-OUs for different object types, like users and computers. This makes it incredibly easy and intuitive to delegate permissions. You can give the Boston Help Desk team control over only the Boston OUs. So this is the crucial point, the one thing to really take away. Don't just mindlessly mirror your company's org chart. Your OU structure should be designed with one single goal in mind: making delegation simple and effective. You have to think about who needs to manage what, and then build your structure to support exactly that. All right, let's bring it all together now. We've gone from that huge macro-level decision of the forest boundary all the way down to the micro-level organization of OUs for just daily management. It really just boils down to this three-step process. First, you define your security boundary, most likely with a single forest. Second, you partition with domains. Again, probably just a single domain. And finally, you build out your OU structure to organize your objects and, most importantly, delegate administration effectively. And I want to leave you with this one question to think about for your own environment. A well-designed Active Directory should feel almost invisible. It should empower your business to operate securely and efficiently. If you find that people are constantly fighting against its limitations, well, that might be a sign that the foundational blueprint needs another look.